Before this month ends, something in your love life is going to shift in a way you did not expect and maybe not even believe was possible, because for a long time it has felt like you have been standing still, emotionally praying, hoping, questioning, wondering if the promises in your heart were real or just something you imagined in moments of loneliness. But what you need to understand right now is that love does not disappear just because it is quiet, and destiny does not stop working just because you cannot see movement. And sometimes the most powerful changes begin invisibly beneath the surface, long before they rise into your visible reality. And this is one of those seasons where what has been building in silence is about to step into manifestation. And the reason this shift is happening before this month ends is not random timing, it is alignment. It is the closing of one emotional chapter and the preparation for another. It is the result of lessons you did not even realize you were passing, the boundaries you learned to set, the tears you cried in private, the moments you chose dignity over desperation, the times you walked away instead of chasing, and even the nights you felt forgotten, because all of it has been shaping your heart into something stronger, clearer, and more aligned with the kind of love that stays instead of the kind that only visits and leaves you confused and exhausted. And maybe you have felt subtle changes already. Maybe you have noticed you are no longer attracted to chaos the way you once were. Maybe you no longer feel the urge to beg someone to see your value. Maybe you have started to enjoy your own company more deeply, and that is not coincidence, that is growth. And growth always precedes shift, because when you elevate internally, your external relationships must rearrange to match your new level. And sometimes that rearrangement feels uncomfortable because it requires endings before beginnings, and distance before closeness, and silence before conversation. But the shift I am speaking about is not about loss, it is about correction. It is about love moving into its rightful position in your life. And when correction happens, it may look like a message you were not expecting. It may look like closure from someone who once left things unresolved. It may look like a new connection that feels different from anything you have experienced before, calmer, safer, more intentional. And you might initially question it because your nervous system is used to intensity instead of peace. But peace is not boring, peace is secure, and secure love is what lasts. And before this month ends, you will begin to see signs that your emotional environment is changing, because love responds to readiness, and you are more ready now than you were a few months ago, even if you do not fully see it yet. And readiness is not about perfection, it is about awareness. It is about knowing what you will no longer tolerate. It is about recognizing red flags without romanticizing them. It is about choosing reciprocity instead of one-sided effort. And the universe responds quickly when your standards rise, because higher standards create clearer filters, and clearer filters allow aligned people to find you more easily. And maybe this shift will come in the form of someone finally realizing your worth after a period of distance. And while reconciliation can happen, what matters more is that you have changed, and because you have changed, you will not accept breadcrumbs disguised as affection. You will not settle for half commitment and half presence. And if someone returns, they will have to return differently, because you are not the same person they left. And sometimes the shift is not about a specific person at all. Sometimes it is about you stepping into a new frequency where love feels natural instead of forced, and mutual instead of confusing. And you might notice conversations flowing more easily. You might notice feeling seen and heard in ways you were not before. You might notice that instead of overthinking every interaction, you feel calm and grounded. And that calmness is the clearest sign that love is shifting in your favor, because anxious love creates doubt, but aligned love creates stability. And as this month comes closer to its end, there will be moments that feel small but carry big meaning: a random encounter, a deep conversation, an unexpected apology, an invitation you almost decline but decide to accept. And in those moments, something inside you will whisper, "This is different, and you must trust that whisper because your intuition has been sharpening through every disappointment you survived and through every situation that did not work out the way you hoped, and what once felt like rejection was actually redirection, what once felt like delay was protection, and what once felt like silence was preparation. And the reason love is shifting now is because you are no longer chasing it from a place of fear, you are allowing it from a place of confidence, and there is power in that difference, because when you chase you signal lack, but when you allow you signal worth, and worth attracts stability, and stability attracts commitment, and commitment is what transforms temporary connections into lasting partnerships. And you might still carry a little doubt because you have been strong for so long, and strength sometimes hides vulnerability, but vulnerability is not weakness. Openness, and openness is what invites real love in. And before this month ends, you will have an opportunity to choose openness over fear, to choose trust over suspicion, to choose belief over past wounds, and that choice will determine how fully you experience the shift that is already moving toward you. And understand this clearly: the shift may not look dramatic, it may not be fireworks and grand gestures, it may simply be clarity, it may simply be peace, it may simply be the sudden understanding that you deserve more, and the courage to wait for it. And sometimes the most life-changing shifts are quiet decisions you make within yourself that alter the direction of your entire romantic future. And if someone new enters your life, do not compare them to your past, allow them to be who they are. If someone from your past returns, do not shrink to accommodate their old version, require their growth to meet yours. And if no one physically appears before the month ends, but your mindset transforms and your self-love deepens and your standards solidify, then that itself is the shift, because love always begins internally before it manifests externally, and internal shifts create external outcomes inevitably, and you are closer than you think to experiencing the kind of love that feels like home instead of a test. And the energy surrounding you is no longer about proving yourself, it is about receiving what matches you. And you have done enough proving, you have endured enough confusion, you have cried enough tears over people who could not see your value, and now the season is changing. Now the emotional climate is warming. Now the doors that were closed are either opening properly or being permanently shut, so better ones can appear. And the key is not to rush the final days of this month with anxiety, but to move through them with expectation, because expectation shifts energy, expectation prepares your heart to receive, and gratitude accelerates alignment. And if you wake up each day believing something good is unfolding in your love life, you will start noticing subtle confirmations everywhere, and those confirmations will build your confidence, and that confidence will make you magnetic, and magnetism is what draws in the kind of partner who recognizes your light instead of competing with it. And the reason this message resonates with you is because part of you already feels the shift coming. You sense it in the way you think differently about love, you sense it in the way certain attachments are loosening, you sense it in the way you are no longer afraid of being alone. And that fearlessness is attractive because it communicates independence, and independence makes partnership a choice, not a necessity. And love that is chosen is stronger than love that is clung to. And before this month closes, there will be evidence that something has moved, whether it is a conversation that changes everything or a realization that frees you from old emotional patterns. And when that moment arrives, do not downplay it, do not dismiss it as coincidence, honor it, acknowledge it, step into it fully, because this is not about temporary excitement, this is about long-term alignment, this is about your heart finally experiencing something steady and reciprocal and meaningful. And you have waited long enough and grown enough to handle it wisely. And when the shift completes, you will look back at this period of uncertainty and realize it was the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming in love. And you will understand that timing was not working against you, it was refining you, and that before this Month ends love will shift not because of luck but because of growth, not because of desperation but because of readiness, and when readiness meets opportunity, transformation becomes inevitable, and your transformation in love is no longer a distant possibility, it is a present reality unfolding step by step, conversation by conversation, choice by choice. And as the final days of this month approach, hold your heart steady, hold your faith strong, hold your standards high, because what is coming toward you is not another lesson, it is a blessing, and blessings arrive when you are prepared to recognize them, and you are prepared now more than ever before. And that is why before this month ends, love will shift in a way that confirms that every delay, every disappointment, and every unanswered prayer was leading you exactly here to this turning point where everything begins to feel different and better and finally aligned with the love you have always deserved. As this shift continues to unfold, you may begin to notice that what once triggered you no longer has the same power over your emotions, and that alone is a sign that something profound is happening beneath the surface, because when love is about to change externally, it first stabilizes you internally, and you are entering a space where your reactions are softer but your standards are stronger, where your heart is open but your boundaries are clear. And this balance is rare yet powerful, because in the past you may have leaned too far in one direction, either giving too much and losing yourself, or protecting yourself so intensely that no one could truly reach you. But now you are finding the middle ground where you can care deeply without abandoning yourself, and that emotional maturity is magnetic. It calls in a different caliber of connection, one that does not require you to shrink or overextend in order to be chosen. And before this month ends, you will likely experience a moment that confirms this growth. Perhaps someone will test an old boundary, and instead of reacting impulsively, you will respond calmly. Or maybe you will find yourself uninterested in a dynamic that once consumed your thoughts, and that indifference will surprise you because it will reveal how far you have actually come. And sometimes the greatest sign that love is shifting is not the arrival of someone new but the quiet release of what no longer fits, because when your heart stops clinging to what is misaligned, it creates space for what is meant to stay, and space is necessary for manifestation. You cannot receive with closed fists, and you cannot welcome aligned love while still gripping tightly to expired attachments. And the universe understands readiness not through your words but through your actions, through the standards you enforce, through the peace you protect, through the patience you practice. And your recent decisions, whether you realize it or not, have been signaling that you are no longer available for confusion disguised as romance, and that declaration in energy form is powerful. It rearranges circumstances, it accelerates endings that were lingering, it brings clarity to conversations that were vague, and it introduces opportunities that feel refreshing instead of draining. And you might notice that communication begins to feel more intentional. Someone may speak to you with directness instead of ambiguity. Someone may express interest without playing games. Someone may ask you what you truly want instead of assuming, and that level of clarity might initially feel unfamiliar, but unfamiliar does not mean wrong, it means new, and new is necessary when growth has occurred, because you cannot expect different outcomes while entertaining the same patterns. And what is different now is you are no longer trying to decode mixed signals, you are no longer romanticizing potential over consistency, you are no longer mistaking intensity for intimacy. And that shift in perception changes everything, because perception determines tolerance, and tolerance determines experience. And your tolerance for emotional instability has decreased significantly, which means your experience of love must elevate to match your evolved capacity. And before this month ends, there may be a defining moment where you consciously choose alignment over attachment, where you say no to something comfortable but unfulfilling and yes to something uncertain but promising. And that courage will mark the true beginning of this new romantic chapter. And understand that The shift does not guarantee perfection, it guarantees progress. It does not promise that every interaction will be flawless, it promises that you will handle interactions with wisdom instead of woundedness, and that difference protects your heart while still allowing it to expand, and expansion is what love requires, because love cannot grow in a heart that is closed by fear or hardened by disappointment, and you have done the hard work of softening without losing strength, of forgiving without forgetting, lessons of hoping
without becoming naive, and that emotional balance is rare and valuable. And it is precisely why this shift is occurring now, because you are capable of sustaining what you once only desired, and sustaining healthy love requires stability, self-awareness, patience, and discernment, all qualities that you have been developing quietly through your recent experiences. And as the days move forward, you may feel a subtle excitement and anticipation that something meaningful is near, not in a desperate way, but in a calm, confident way, and that calm confidence is the clearest indicator that you are aligned with what is coming, because desperation repels but confidence attracts, and attraction at this level is not about appearance or charm, it is about energy, it is about the way you carry yourself, the way you no longer seek validation from inconsistent sources, the way you trust that what is meant for you will recognize you without excessive effort, and when you operate from that trust, love flows toward you more naturally, because you are no longer chasing, you are embodying, and embodiment is powerful. It turns you into a reflection of the relationship you desire, and when you become the embodiment of clarity, respect, affection, and emotional security, you begin to encounter people who mirror those same qualities back to you, and this mirroring effect may begin subtly, perhaps through a friendship that deepens unexpectedly, or through a conversation that feels unusually authentic, or through a realization that someone has been observing your value quietly all along. And as this realization dawns, you may also confront lingering doubts from past disappointments, but instead of allowing those doubts to sabotage new opportunities, you will have the awareness to separate past pain from present potential, and that discernment will prevent you from projecting old fears onto new possibilities. And this is crucial, because many love stories fail not due to incompatibility but due to unresolved wounds interfering with fresh beginnings, and you are entering a phase where you are conscious enough to avoid that pattern, and this consciousness ensures that the shift you experience before this month ends is sustainable rather than temporary, and sustainability is what transforms moments into milestones and connections into commitments. And you have reached a level of maturity where you understand that true love is not about constant adrenaline or dramatic displays, it is about consistency, it is about showing up, it is about choosing each other daily even when excitement fluctuates, and because you now value consistency over chaos, you are aligned with a partner who values the same. And whether that partner is someone new stepping forward or someone existing stepping up, what matters is that the dynamic itself will feel different, grounded, balanced, reciprocal, and you will sense that difference immediately, not through overwhelming emotion but through steady reassurance, and that reassurance will calm parts of you that have been restless for too long, and when restlessness fades, gratitude replaces it. And gratitude amplifies alignment, and alignment solidifies manifestation, and this cycle will continue strengthening as long as you remain committed to honoring your growth and trusting your intuition and refusing to compromise your standards out of temporary loneliness. And as the final stretch of this month approaches, take note of your thoughts, take note of your reactions, take note of who enters your space and how they make you feel, because these details are clues confirming that love is indeed shifting, not in fantasy but in reality, And reality-based love is the most powerful kind because it withstands challenges, adapts to change, and deepens with time. And you are no longer preparing for fleeting affection, you are preparing for something enduring, something that aligns with your future, not just your present emotions. And that preparation is why the shift feels different this time. It feels earned, it feels stable, it feels aligned, and when love feels aligned, it no longer feels like a battle, it feels like a blessing unfolding naturally at the exact moment you are ready to receive it, and that moment is closer than you think, unfolding quietly, confidently, and intentionally as this month reaches its end, bringing with it the confirmation that your patience was purposeful, your growth was necessary, and your heart is finally positioned to experience the kind of love that does not leave you questioning but reassures you simply by being consistent, present, and true. And as this month reaches its final days, you will begin to understand that the shift was never just about another person walking into your life, but about you walking into a new version of yourself, where love is no longer something you fear losing, but something you trust yourself to handle wisely, because the greatest transformation happening right now is not outside of you, it is within you. And when internal transformation stabilizes, external circumstances must eventually reflect it, and that reflection may arrive in a way that feels subtle at first, perhaps through a sense of calm you cannot explain, or through a conversation that flows without effort, or through the realization that you are no longer anxious about timelines because you finally believe that what is meant for you cannot miss you, and that belief changes everything, because when belief replaces doubt, your energy shifts from scarcity to certainty, and certainty is powerful. It communicates to the world that you are no longer negotiating your worth, you are embodying it. And when you embody your worth, you stop entertaining connections that require you to prove yourself, and instead you naturally gravitate toward those who recognize your value without persuasion. And before this month closes completely, there may be one defining emotional moment that confirms this new chapter, whether it is someone expressing genuine feelings with clarity, or someone revealing through their actions that they are ready to meet you at your level, or even you choosing to walk away from something that once felt impossible to release. And in that moment you will feel something different, not panic, not fear, not desperation, but peace. And peace is the clearest confirmation that love is aligning, because chaotic love creates adrenaline, but aligned love creates stability. And you are no longer addicted to adrenaline, you are ready for stability, you are ready for partnership that feels safe instead of uncertain, you are ready for communication that is direct instead of confusing, you are ready for effort that is consistent instead of temporary. And readiness at this level attracts opportunity, because the universe responds to clarity, and you are clearer now than ever before about what you desire and what you deserve, and clarity eliminates mixed signals from your own heart, which means you will not send confusing energy into your connections. You will not say you want commitment while
tolerating inconsistency. You will not say you value respect while accepting disregard. You will not say you are ready for real love while entertaining half love. And this internal alignment ensures that when the shift completes, it is not fragile, it is firm, it is rooted in self-awareness and strengthened by experience. And you may look back at earlier versions of yourself who tolerated less, who chased harder, who settled quicker, and instead of feeling shame, you will feel compassion, because every phase was necessary to teach you what this new phase now requires, which is discernment, patience, and confidence. And confidence does not mean you will never feel vulnerable again. It means you will not let vulnerability make you compromise your standards, and that balance is what protects healthy love from being sabotaged by old fears. And as the final confirmation unfolds before this month ends, you may notice that the people around you respond to you differently, perhaps with more respect, perhaps with more intention, perhaps with more curiosity about your depth. And that response is not coincidence, it is reflection, because when you elevate internally, your external world recalibrates to match, and some connections may fall away quietly while others step forward boldly, and both movements are part of the shift, because love sometimes reorganizes your environment before it introduces permanence, and reorganization can feel unsettling if you resist it, but if you allow it, you will see that every adjustment is guiding you closer to something sustainable and meaningful and lasting. And what makes this period different from past cycles is that you are no longer chasing intensity, you are choosing intentionality. You are no longer mistaking attention for affection, you are recognizing effort as the true language of care. You are no longer romanticizing potential, you are valuing consistency. And these distinctions may seem subtle, but they are transformative, because they determine the quality of love you accept. And before this month ends, you will either witness someone rising to meet your evolved expectations, or you will witness yourself confidently declining what does not. And either outcome is a victory, because both confirm growth, and growth is the foundation of lasting partnership. And if someone steps forward with sincerity, allow yourself to receive without self-sabotage. Do not search for hidden problems where there are none. Do not assume kindness is temporary simply because you have experienced inconsistency before. Allow the present moment to prove itself rather than letting the past define it. And if someone fails to meet your standards, do not interpret it as rejection, interpret it as redirection, because rejection removes what is misaligned while redirection guides you toward what fits. And this understanding will free you from unnecessary emotional turmoil and keep your heart open without being reckless. And openness with discernment is the ideal state for healthy love to flourish. And as the energy of this month settles into its final chapter, you will sense completion, not in a dramatic way but in a grounded, assured way, like a door quietly closing behind you while another opens ahead. And you will realize that the waiting, the confusion, the lessons, the tears were not punishments, they were preparation. They were shaping you into someone capable of sustaining the very love you have been asking for and sustaining. Love requires emotional intelligence, self-respect, patience, communication, and resilience, all qualities you now carry more strongly than before. And that is why this shift is not temporary excitement, it is foundational change. It is the beginning of a new romantic rhythm, one that flows instead of fights, one that builds instead of breaks, one that reassures instead of destabilizes. And as you move into the next month, you will carry this awareness with you. You will notice how different you feel, how lighter your heart feels, how steady your thoughts feel, and that steadiness will be the clearest evidence that love has shifted. Because when love aligns correctly, it does not create chaos, it creates clarity. It does not create fear, it creates faith. It does not create confusion, it creates confidence. And you are stepping into a season where confidence in love replaces doubt, and stability replaces uncertainty, and reciprocity replaces imbalance. And whether this manifests through a specific person or through a series of aligned interactions, what matters most is that you are no longer standing in the same emotional space you were at the beginning of this month. You have moved, you have grown, you have recalibrated, and because you have changed, your love life must change accordingly. And as this chapter closes, hold on to one truth: the shift happened not because time passed, but because you evolved, and evolution always produces new outcomes. And before this month ends, you will have tangible proof that your evolution in love was worth every lesson, every delay, and every moment of patience, because what is entering your life now is not another test. It is a reflection of the strength, wisdom, and self-respect you have developed, and that reflection will feel different in the best possible way: steady, secure, intentional, and real. And when you recognize it, you will know deep within that the shift you sensed was real all along, and that this new chapter of love is not built on hope alone, but on growth, alignment, and the quiet confidence that you are finally ready for something that is ready for you too.